Welcome to The Change, a podcast about the changes in life that shake, break, and make us. I'm Laura, a 45-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum who has until recently always loved change.
And I'm Cathy, a 53-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum, and change is actually my kryptonite. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia on which this podcast is recorded and recognise the continuing connections to lands, waters and communities.
We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and elders past and present.
Hello, how are you going?
Hi Cathy, I'm well. How are you?
Look, it's not bad. It's been a lovely weekend. It's been a long weekend.
It has been a long weekend and it's a hot weekend as well. Yes. Here in Newcastle, it's very warm and sunny and I'm in the aircon in my little studio feeling quite smug.
Yes, it's been warm, very warm here at home.
Where you are?
Yes, in the gong.
In the gong?
Down in the gong. Yes.
Yeah. We're recording this on the long weekend for those outside of Australia that might not know. And the long weekend has many names. It's a challenging weekend that was once called Australia Day. I tend to just call it Jan 26 long weekend. Indigenous and First Nations people refer to it as Invasion Day. I saw Narelda Jacobs called it Survival Day. And I should say not just Indigenous and First Nations people call it those Invasion or Survival Day. It depends on your political and cultural leanings and thoughts on the issue. I think it's a tough one. Grateful for the day off today and very, I don't know. Cathy, you were born here. What are your thoughts on the subject?
It's really funny because it's not always been on the 26th of January.
That's right.
My dad talks about that it was like the last weekend in January was the date would change depending on the last weekend in January and you had a long weekend basically. And then I want to say like 1988, which was around the bicentenary of English invasion to Australia. It became sort of there was a settle on that date, the 26th of January.
Yeah.
There's always been a public holiday in January, and I have very uncomfortable feelings about it.
Yeah, I feel the same. It's uncomfortable. And if some people are uncomfortable, I'd rather we were all comfortable, and therefore let's just change the day.
I kind of think, look, personally, I think I would like to see it a little bit more like Anzac Day, which is quite sombre in the morning and, we really reflect on what has happened and what it is that we're reflecting on and what is Anzac Day and the sacrifices of the people that went before us and the freedoms that we have to live today. Now that's Anzac Day, of course.
In April,
I would like to see something like that. But I am not First Nations. I am not Indigenous. I have no Indigenous heritage in my bloodlines whatsoever. So in a lot of ways, I really don't feel like I have a voice in this. Of course, I have a voice. I can use a voice.
Yeah.
But I don't think that what I want of the day matters because I just think from a history perspective that when we don't look at our history and we don't learn from our history, then history repeats itself. And I kind of feel like that's happening a lot around the world at the moment.
Yeah. The nationalistic kind of sentiment and I find it uncomfortable, the flag waving and the beer drinking on the beach. It just doesn't sit right with me. I don't like it. I think if it's offensive to people, then we should, like you say, I think it's a really good opportunity for people to learn and reflect but does it have to be on the January 26th anymore? Everyone's moved on from that. I don't see why people are so very funny about it. But then that's us, isn't it?
But
that's
then also recognising that we are two very white women who probably our voice doesn't really matter. What we want is probably kind of irrelevant to the story.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I think the one, other than having a day off work, which is, nice to have for us today, the one good thing in the media over the weekend that we were both commenting on before was that the Australian of the Year awards come out, and around the country, people that have done amazing things for community and business and society are named. And you had a few thoughts.
So I mean that is the one good thing, and I do look forward to seeing who is recognised each year, because oftentimes these are ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and we don't get to hear about them at any other time. Some previous women's winners or nominees or recipients, I suppose, have been Dylan Alcott. We've had Taryn Brumfitt. We've had Professor Georgina Long and Professor Richard Scollier. There's incredible seniors of the year.
Was Grace Tame one at any stage?
Grace Tame has been one. Shanna Wan, she talks about sober in the country.
That's right. Yeah.
Dr. Miriam Rose Ungamer Borman has been a senior of the year, and that name means something to me. That was in 2021. The main reason it means something is because my daughters went to a school, and all of their houses at their school were named after incredible women who have done incredible things.
And Dr. progressive Miriam, school your children go to.
And Dr. Miriam was one of those incredible recipients. And so this year the recipients were Neil Danaher for all of his work into motor neurone disease, Brother Thomas Oliver Pickett. Now, I'm not sure what Brother Thomas has done. He's the co-founder of Wheelchairs for Kids. So that is looking into providing adjustable wheelchairs and occupational therapy expertise for children in developing countries free of charge. So that's incredible as well, because as we know, if you can't get somewhere, if you're in a building and there's only stairs, you can't get up those stairs, but someone can help you get up in a wheelchair,
he's changed lives for people all over the world.
Bounce you up the stairs. The Young Australian of this year is Dr. Katrina Ruck. She is a young First Nations woman, and she has set up a profit for purpose business to transform consumer goods into green chemistry. So
by using green chemistry.
Yeah. Wow. So in that STEM field of science, technology, engineering. So it's incredible to see young women doing that. And then there was local heroes, Vanessa and Hannah. They have a cafe, which is also doing great things for women. For me, that's kind of really hopeful, and that's a very hopeful time when we get to see these, and these people are elevated and they have a platform and a profile for 12 months where they can talk about these things.
I think it's just so wonderful to see people, real humans, live here in Australia, doing fantastic things. And even I was reading about the two women that have started this cafe called Stepping Stones in Canberra, and just talking about how it brings people together through community. They hold craft sessions, silent book clubs. They have a monthly menopause cafe. And they've got this focus on social justice. I think the idea is that they get women working in the cafe, newly arrived, immigrants as well, and people who've experienced homelessness, and just kind of lift them up. And I think what a wonderful business model. And it's just lovely to read these stories, because sometimes you can think, God, the world is full of absolute assholes. And then you read about people, no, it's not full of assholes. There are lots of people doing amazing things. You just don't hear about it until good news stories like this come up. So it's really important, isn't it, to highlight these people?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we'll pop a link to the article for all of the recipients for across the whole of Australia. Obviously, we've highlighted a few, but
The
there's a
many
lot
worthy ones.
more worthy ones and worthy recipients. And I think it's just, it just shows you that there's some really good people out there doing really good things. And, you know, when you look around the world and even in Australia, it's not always, it feels hard. It just feels like it's a hard time at the moment. And, you know, Trump seems to be still going after Greenland, even though they are very fervently telling him to back off.
Yes.
You know, and the things that are being said, Elon Musk, I mean, need we say any more?
Yeah. It's the doom loop we talked about last week too, right? There's all this just terrible news, cost of living, blah, 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 climate change, awful, blah. Yeah.
I mean, obviously we are in an incredible position of privilege because we get to choose to switch off from those things. I think it's important to do that if you can.
It's not all bad, not all doom and gloom. There's some wonderful people and wonderful things going on in the world right now.
Tell me, I know that you have been looking at lots of things to do with midlife, and I know there's a burning one that you want to talk about.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. Now, talking of books, there's a book I haven't yet got my hands on, which I'm very, very keen to get my hands on, and that's by actor and advocate, I guess you could say, for midlife women, Naomi Watts, and her book is called Dare I Say It? And it looks fantastic. It's about her life and her experiences of, in Hollywood, and also her experience of coming into midlife and coming into her power a little bit, I guess. And this week, The Guardian published an extract from it, and would you believe it? It was my husband, Jules, that said, "You got to read this." And I was like, "Oh." And he sent me the link, and I thought, "Oh, I will read it. Thank you, Jules." And it's a really good read. Obviously, I want to read the whole book, but this little extract brought up a couple of points that I wanted to just discuss with you because I thought they were really
hit me.
Yeah, really excellent. And also Naomi Watts, I follow her on Instagram. I believe you do too.
Yeah, I do too.
She's a great one for, we're talking hope scrolling. She's fantastic. She's a real advocate for women in midlife and perimenopause and menopause and just, being fabulous in your 50s. That's, I think of Naomi Watts. That's kind of what I think. Yeah.
I'm not sure she's in her 50s yet, is she?
Is she, or she's almost in her 50s?
Almost.
Yeah, because Nicole Kidman definitely is, and they're like besties, aren't they? I kind of think of them as the same pairing, but I know quite different women. She's also my blonde bob inspo. She's very much rocking her blonde little bob, and I love it. I take that photo in when I go to the hairdresser and it's like, help me out. Okay, so the first thing she talked about, which I thought was really, really interesting, and I wanted to see if you have the similar sort of experience, and she talks about she's friends with Mariella Frostrup, who's a kind of British media personality and writer. And apparently Mariella said to Naomi, in midlife, men buy motorcycles or fast cars and women get PhDs. And I thought that was really interesting because she said a lot of men seem to slightly slow down at this age and they're looking forward to retirement and taking up golf. And women just seem to become so much more driven and ambitious and focused as our oxytocin goes down. We lose that love for toddlers and our children leave home. And she kind of just talks about, how women are kind of just coming into themselves. I know we have talked about that before, whereas men are like, I think they're starting, their hormones drop off a lot later than ours, and they kind of want to start nesting long after we want to, we want to go on adventures and have fabulous holidays with our girlfriends and do interesting things. And they're like, they just want to potter around in the garden on the golf course. What do you think? Is that your experience, Kathy, with your circle?
Yes. I have thoughts. Of course I have thoughts. It's funny because we always find these articles independent of each other and then just managed like in so many ways we're on a similar wavelength.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say, yes, this is my experience. I know that my husband is very keen to retire. He would like to retire early, significantly sooner than me. We are of an age where our superannuation matures, if you like, at when we turn 60. So when we turn 60, we can draw it down should we choose to, as long as we don't have a job. So that, you know, there are certain things that you have to do, and that might be that you retire at 60, draw down your super, and then I believe people can go back to work if they get bored, but and but you know, I am no financial expert, so that is not financial advice.
Just an opinion, yeah.
Just an opinion. Just what I understand for our circumstance. And yes, he is very keen to retire. He's very keen to do less. I think he would love to get. He's not into a fast car. He'd love to get a slow four-wheel drive and go slow four-wheel driving and camping and
enjoy nature.
Yeah, and all the things that I really would rather not do. And I'm at this point not even close to thinking about retirement. And I think in part that is because for someone like me, I had been out of the workforce for a significant chunk of my life. Not quite a third, but you know, close to a third, 15 years. And that is raising children. And I got to say, sitting at home, raising kids was expensive. It was boring for me. I personally found it very tricky and very challenging. I did not enjoy those years an awful lot, and they played heavily on my mental health. So I'm in no real hurry to retire, and I would like to think about some study, you know, I don't know what that study looks like just yet, but I am certainly looking at my what's next career-wise. I'm far more ambitious than I ever used to be. And yeah, I think that statement for me is very
rings true.
Yeah, really rings true. And for many in my circle, like I know lots of our friends, the husbands are looking at early retirement, if we want to call it early, but young retirement in their sort of early 60s. And but I'm yet to actually meet any of the wives who also want to retire young.
I think it's really interesting when you've had a lot of time in the home, at home, to think about kind of, it doesn't feel like it's been long enough back in the workforce to kind of come back home again. And also being at home all day with your partner, like, oh God, I mean, I think even if I retired and Jules was retired, he's a busy kind of a person that would, and this is, you know, in the future, I'm not talking about even in the next 10 years probably for me, but I would be busy doing things, getting out and about, whether that was working, or I would imagine I would be catching up with people and studying or taking up new hobbies. I imagine my retirement to be quite busy, and I'm interested in lots of things. I'd love to go back to university and just study something for the sake of it, or to college, or, you know, something that was just of interest to me. And I think this is quite a, you know, we're having quite a privileged conversation. Obviously, a lot of people can't afford to retire, and they're, you know, thinking they would love to retire at 60 and they can't because of, you know, all sorts of reasons, financial ones. But and Naomi Watts would be in that category too, right? In a massive way. So all these people, she's talking about the people that have got ambition. She's not talking about women that work at the local, I don't know, Bunnings. The chippy. She's talking about women that have in Hollywood that have interesting careers, that are probably financially very secure, and that want to continue working in their very, you know, interesting roles, I'm assuming, where they probably don't, they have to work hard, yes, and use their brains, but they're probably not on a factory lineup. Do you know what I mean? They're literally doing things that excite them and interest them. So there is that, isn't there? There's like a difference in the kind of work she's talking about and the kind of work we're talking about too. Funnily enough, my sister-in-law has said to me that feels like she's losing her ambition a little bit, and some of her friends, but that doesn't mean she's losing her interest in life. She's sort of saying she's thinking about slowing down the work aspect, but is really keen to get out in nature more, just enjoy her life, travel, hang out with friends more, and just have that mixture that you don't get when you're either in the thick of raising little kids, or you're just working 40, 50 hours a week, really too hard. So I think there's a sense of a bit of both of that, but I think she makes a good point.
And
there is a difference.
What you're saying as well is it is that incredible privilege that not everybody has those options and those choices. When you have financial security, you have choice, and that is something that, you know, the ageism campaign is all about, is just ensuring that you understand what your financial options are so that you can have those choices. And that is for all women, but not everybody has that ability to be able to make those choices, I guess, which can be tricky and challenging. But I think you've sold me. I do think I do want to read Naomi Watts' book. When's it available?
That's a very good question. I believe it is actually out now.
I'll race down and find it.
It's out now. Penguin Random House, $36.99. That's Australian dollars. So yes, I need to get onto that too. I think it looks like a great read. The last few episodes we've been doing for our summer series, we've been talking about the different years. Yes. Big years. And we've gone in decades. So we did 85, 95, 2005. This year, let's talk about 2015. Now, Cathy, that was a big year for you. Tell me why.
I wouldn't say it was a big year because it was a happy year. When this drops, it will be just short of exactly 10 years since I found myself in hospital, recovering from a significant mental health breakdown. And I can't really tell you a lot about that time, not because I don't want to, because you know me, I do love a share. It's because I don't actually remember it. The things that happened in the lead up to my breakdown and the things that happened in the couple of years after my breakdown are all part of a period of my life that I don't have access to the memories, and it's called dissociative amnesia. And you know, I've been on telly. I was on Studio 10 talking about it. I've been on SBS talking about it. This for me also, I had another condition called functional neurological disorder, which is a recognised disability, and that for me manifested in stroke-like symptoms. So that meant that for me, the left-hand side of my body was weak, and I couldn't control the movement. So if I was to try and tell my leg to kick, I couldn't get the signal from my brain, at least this is what I'm told, from my brain to my leg to make it kick. But if I didn't think about it, or if it was if a band was put around, say, my left ankle and my right ankle, then I could do it. And I could walk with the aid of a walking stick, and things like that. So it was that there was a disruption between my brain and actual the movement. So what I know about that time is what's in my journals and what I've been told. So it was a really difficult year for my family, and you know, the following year as well. I didn't have a driver's license, which obviously with 3 small children makes things very difficult when you only have one person working, one person able to drive people to and from sports and after school activities and all of those things. So yeah, it was a very, very challenging time, and the last 10 years have been a period of recovery and lots of hard work, lots of therapy, and lots of, reflection. How did I get to there? How did things get so bad? And mental health, as we know, is something that I am incredibly passionate about. Often everybody sort of says, well, why didn't you just ask for help? Why didn't you just... Because when you're down in a hole, you're often so deep in a hole, you just can't see a way out of a hole, and you don't know who to turn to. You don't know where to get help. And 10 years ago, mental health, we have made leaps and bounds in talking about it. We have Are You OK Day, and I think that was around then too. But really, we talk about it a lot more. It is in legislation. Workplaces have to provide psychosocial supports and psychosocial workplaces. So we have come a long, long way. Someone like me, look, 30, 40 years ago, I would have been put into, very likely, just into an institution and very likely not seen my children or family ever again. And that's not that long ago that happened. Two of my, I think, great or great-great grandmothers went to Callum Park, which was the mental health institution. It certainly wasn't called a mental health. It was psych institution, and I'm pretty sure neither of them came out again.
Isn't that awful? Yeah.
It was a tricky time. So please don't ask me any facts or figures from 2015 because I don't know. I don't even know what happened in the world. So yeah.
Well, do you want me to tell you?
Yeah,
it's a long time ago, really, to catch up on the news of a decade ago.
Yes.
But yes, look, 2015, I guess I had a 5-year-old at that point. I was working here in Newcastle. A few things. I went through a few things back then, but certainly nothing like what you went through. I think some of the big news of that period was, the ones that I remember anyway, was gay marriage was legalized in the US, which was good news. The less good news was that I remember, and I was looking at it today and thinking, what things did I remember? There was a huge earthquake in Nepal that killed, I think, nearly 10,000 people. There was the Charlie Hebdo shooting, which was a gunman. It was like a really rogue crime. He walked into the Paris office of a French magazine called Charlie Hebdo.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah, and killed 12 people and injured another 10. And that was big news, obviously, around the world. And, Paris has had some quite significant terrorism acts occur there. And knowing I've got a French pen friend who I'm still in touch with and I saw last year, and I just remember getting in touch with her straight away and, checking she was okay and having conversations around that. So they were just sort of some of the big news. Obviously, a lot happens in the course of a year, but some of the lesser, I guess, big news things that happened in 2015 that I thought I'd bring up was, Caitlyn Jenner was, came out as Caitlyn Jenner, formerly known as Bruce. Yep. And that was a big pop cultural story of the time, and obviously huge for her and her family. Bruce Jenner was a famous Olympian. Yeah, married to the Kris Jenner, who is...
As in the Kardashian fame.
The Kardashian fame, the family, and had their lives, documented in the Keeping Up with the Kardashians TV show at that point, probably for around 7 or 8 years, and had started to grow his hair long, and there was obviously things going on, and it was sort of all catalogued almost in real time, which back 10 years ago, now in the era of TikTok that we're in, and everything is catalogued minute by minute, second by second, it was still quite an unusual thing to sort of behold then. And so Bruce became Caitlyn, and that was all, out there in the world on TV, and that was a good thing for her to be able to live her life as the person she always felt she was. And it was big news because being that Bruce was such a big celebrity, and now Caitlin is too.
I want to say Bruce also, when Caitlin was Bruce, I'm getting Bruce and the Kardashians' actual father confused. They were linked to O.J. Simpson.
They were. He was a lawyer. That was the father of the Kardashians. Yes. But Bruce Jenner was an Olympian, I think. He was a chap.
So Caitlin was an Olympian.
Caitlin was an Olympian. Yeah. Sorry. And I hope we're possibly saying the wrong thing here, but I think that was really big news at the time. And the other thing that I remember from this period, which is super weird, Star Wars came out. The new
Star Wars?
It was Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
Ah, right, yes. Okay.
Is that the first one of the new lot?
Yes. So we had 4, 5, 6 in
early 2000s. Oh, the 70s, yeah.
70s, like when we were kids.
The originals, the OGs,
the OGs, 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
And then 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that was the early 2000s.
In the early 2000s.
Yep.
And then
this
7, 8, 9 came out.
I absolutely loved this period of Star Wars. I loved this episode.
I have watched The Force Awakens more than once, so I do remember the movie.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it coming out.
No, you would not. No, I remember taking maybe watched it on DVD with Toby around a little bit later because he was only 5 when it came out. But I remember absolutely loving it. It's Kylo Ren.
Yes.
Hot.
Yes.
Is what I mainly remember. And other news of that time. Do you remember, obviously it's hard to ask you this, but so there's a couple of things that came out. The term Netflix and chill was like a thing in 2015. So that was like...
take your word for it.
Okay, so that's, we often refer to Netflix. We don't, no one says it anymore, but that was a massive thing, right? The other thing that I thought was really interesting, and I really remember it, was the dress that broke the internet. The dress
dress?
Okay, so there was this photo that went viral. It was one of those instances of something going viral that would probably be over and done within a day now, but this seemed to go on for ages. And it was the dress that was a photo posted on February 26, 2015, and asked people, this Tumblr user asked people to identify its colour scheme. So you either fell into one camp, where you saw it as a blue and black dress, or you fell into the other camp where you saw it as a gold and white dress, right?
So what colour was the dress?
Well, I don't actually remember what the official colour was of the dress. I think it was gold and white, and whichever way round it was, I saw it the other way, and I remember being absolutely blown away and being like, what is this dress and why is it? It blew my mind at the time. And it's one of those things that trying to explain it to future generations or someone like yourself, you're like, why does no one care about this? But there we are. It was the dress that broke the internet.
Wow.
It's a story. There you go. You may never want to look at it again.
From 2015?
Yes, music from 2015.
I might remember.
Yeah. So the biggest song from 2015 was Uptown Funk, Mark Ronson, Bruno Mars. Do you remember that one?
Well, I don't from then, but I have heard it. Yes.
Okay. Also, Ed Sheeran, he was charting a lot.
Yep.
He had Thinking Out Loud came out that year. There was Maroon 5 with Sugar. Sugar.
Nope. Sorry.
Okay. Taylor Swift was starting to, she was getting pretty big back in 2015. That was the 1989 album, was it? Blank Space. And The Weeknd.
Not a Swiftie. Sorry.
Not a Swiftie. Ellie Goulding, Love Me Like You Do. That was from one of those
that one?
dirty movies.
Love me like you do.
Love me like you. Yeah.
Right,
anyway, yeah.
Sorry. Again, why do we do this each week?
Sorry, guys. Hosier, Take Me to Church. That was a beautiful song.
Yes.
I love that song. Yeah.
My girls love Hosier. They play a lot of Hosier when we're in the car driving around for learner driving.
Okay. Meghan Trainor, Selena Gomez. It's actually, when you look back 10 years ago, it's actually seemed quite contemporary to me. I think when you start to get into our age category,
Rachel Platten, Fight Song.
Oh, I love that song. Yeah. It's just like, it just seems quite modern, even though 2015 It's 10 years ago. It's hard to believe,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes.
A whole decade.
Actually, we were talking about the Triple J Hottest 100 very quickly. Just funny anecdote. But we were at our friend's place and that was on the weekend. And my husband was like, this music feels like mainstream. This isn't like what
It's
Triple
different,
J
isn't
used
it?
to be.
Yeah.
And well, like Triple J used to be like Nine Inch Nails, NWA. You think of like all the alternative, like really, really alternative music. That was Triple J. Like if it was played on mainstream radio, then
it was never
wasn't
played on Triple J.
Triple J.
Absolutely not. No.
And it was funny because we were talking to one of our friends, children's friends, and he was saying, well, basically we can get whatever music we want.
That's right.
Anywhere on Spotify or whatever. So they're like, basically the radio has to kind of keep up with what we want to listen to because otherwise the radio becomes quite irrelevant.
It's a bit sad in the sense that there's no longer the kind of niche Australian bands even making it in anymore. They're much more likely to be known in their local, maybe their city or online. But Triple J has to cater, for what the people want in order to stay, yes, relevant, as you say. And also pop culture like that has become so homogenized, hasn't it? I used to come over from the UK, when I first sort of got together with Jules, and the cultural markers were very different in the UK. We were always poppy nation, and Australia always felt very rocky to me, and Triple J was very very different. So it's all changed. It's very different. Chapel Roan was number one. I do love Chapel Roan, but it's not. She wouldn't have been on there.
The song out of a lineup if I had to.
Good Luck Babe. It's a great song. You'd know it.
I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't. I'm just saying, I couldn't pick the song out of a lineup really.
But also she's American, and I think, that's the difference. In the old days, they'd get the winner of the Triple J Hottest 100 on the phone and you'd have a chat with them. But these days, last year it was Doja Cat again, they're Americans.
Yeah. I mean, it's, like if you think back to apparently the first Triple J Hottest 100 was in 1989. So,
big change.
And it's a big change, and during the first couple of years of that, Joy Division featured, and the winner in 1989 to 1991 was 1989 and 1990 was Love Will Tear Us Apart by Joy Division, and Smells Like Teen Spirit was 1991 with Nirvana. So I mean, like they were the kind of, and then 1993. Who remembers Dennis Leary's Asshole? Like, that was the music that was being played on Triple J, not the mainstream. So
it's changed a lot, for sure.
Yeah, it sure has.
Well, that's wrapping up our summer series. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another great catalogue of guests.
We will have a short little break while we regroup, set up some interviews, and we will be back in your ears.
Can't wait. Catch you soon.
See ya. Thanks for listening to The Change, a fully independent podcast. Whether you're seeking inspiration, curious about change, or just here for the great banter, we'd love you to make The Change your new go-to podcast.
And even better, send us your voice notes or questions about change. We'll use them on the show. Email us at changepod2023@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at _change_pod. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram for more on The Change.